Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Acharya Gosai Prabhur Bhakta Avatar Krishna Avatar Hetu Jahar Hunkar. Advaita Acharya Goswami is an incarnation of the Lord as a devotee. His loud calling was the cause for Krishna's incarnation. Krishna Jadi Prithivite Karina Avatar Prithivite Krishna Jadi Prithivite Karina Avatar Pratame Karina Guru Vargena Sanchar. Whenever Sri Krishna desires to manifest his incarnation on earth, he first creates the incarnations of his respectable predecessors. Pitta Mata Guru Adi Jata Manyagan Pratame Karina Sabhar Prithivite Janama. Thus, respectable personalities such as his father, mother, and spiritual master all take birth on earth first. Madhava Ishvara Puri Shachi Jagannath Advaita Acharya Prakat Hoile Shesat. Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, Shrimati Shachi Mata, and Srila Jagannath Mishra all appeared with Sri Advaita Acharya. Purport. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends in his human form, he sends ahead all his devotees who act as his father, teacher, and associates in many roles. Such personalities appear before the descent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before the appearance of Lord Sri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu, there appeared his devotees like Sri Madhavendra Puri, his spiritual master, Sri Ishvara Puri, his mother, Srimati Shachi Devi, his father, Sri Jagannath Mishra, and Sri Advaita Acharya. Prakatya Dhaki Acharya Sakala Sangsar Krishna Bhakti Ganda Hina Vishaya Vyavahar. Advaita Acharya having appeared, he found the world devoid. Advaita Acharya having appeared, he found the world devoid of devotional service to Sri Krishna because people were engrossed in material affairs. Keha pape, keha pune, kari bishai bhog, bhakti gana nahi jate, jaya bhava rog. Everyone was engaged in material enjoyment, whether sinfully or virtuously. No one was interested in the transcendental service of the Lord, which can give total relief from the repetition of birth and death. Purport. Advaita Acharya saw the entire world to be engaged in activities of material piety and impiety without a trace of devotional service or Krishna consciousness anywhere. The fact is that in this material world, there is no scarcity of anything except Krishna consciousness. Material necessities are supplied by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We sometimes feel scarcity because of our mismanagement, but the real problem is that people are out of touch with Krishna consciousness. Everyone is engaged in material sense gratification, but people have no plan for making an ultimate solution to their real problems, namely birth, disease, old age, and death. These four material miseries are called bhava roga, or material diseases. They can be cured only by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the greatest benediction of human society. So this is a point that is made by Srila Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva when he meets him and discusses what he hasn't given in his Vedas, in the Puranas, the Itihasas, which is the means through which everyone can be completely purified. He gave, rather, various loopholes so that people could, through adjusting to material life, gradually come to the point of Krishna consciousness. But Narada said, Tatonyata kinchana yadvavakshita pratagdirshas tadkrita rupanam abhi nakarichit kwapicha dushtita matir labeta vata hatanaur ivaspadam. Vata ahata means vata means wind. Ahata now ivaspadam now means a boat. And so like a boat that's on the water and it gets blown here and there and can't get to its destination. So Vyasadeva says, Narada says to Vyas that tatonyata kinchana yad vavakshita. Vavakshita, what you've spoken in all of the Vedas by giving various kinds of processes for material adjustment, which gradually elevate one to the point of the bhakti marg. Tatonyata kinchana yad vavakshita pratagdrishas. Pratag means separate, drishas means to see. So pratagdrishas tat krita rupanamabi. Rupanamabi means the names and forms. So basically saying whatever you're telling people, whatever you describe that is pratagdrishas, it's separate in vision from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That is Krishna as the source of everything, the ultimate goal of the Vedas, and a description of his pastimes. Ete chamshakala pumsam krishnastu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge. The foundational verse through which the Goswamis explain that you have to have the highest vision and understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even Narayan is an expansion, and that the reason that Krishna is considered the topmost is because of his qualities in relationship with his beauty, his aesthetic quality, his flute playing, his beautiful pastime, and his loving relationship with the devotees. This is vitally important because without this, the demigods have said in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in their prayers to Krishna, Ye Neira Vindaksha Vamuktamaninas Tvayasta Bhavara Vashuddha Buddhaya. If you don't have this relationship with Krishna, intimate relationship, developed by hearing about him, then Avashuddha Buddhaya, your buddhi, your intelligence remains impure. Avashuddha. It's not pure. Avashuddha Buddhaya. And this is also described in 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, where it is said that those who don't have bhakti, they're rikta matayo, their heads are empty. They got nothing in their head. So even the Buddha, not the incarnation, the avatar Buddha who appeared, who's Krishna, Shaktivesh, but the sage Buddha who left the kingdom and went away and meditated, about whom many things are written. You know, when he came to nirvana, he had nothing. His conclusion was nothing, because he didn't have a connection with the parampara, with pure devotees, to understand the ultimate truth and to imbibe that sound vibration from the spiritual world. So this is what Narada is saying is absolutely necessary for the devotee. Tatonyata kinchana yadvavakshita pratagdrishas tad krita rupanamibi. And nakari chit kwapi dushtita matir. Dushtita matir means, mati means the way you think, the way your mind works. Dushtita, it will be oscillating. It will oscillate from one thing to the next. Means oscillating means always turning, never coming to rest any place. And you have to have that resting place, and it has to be Krishna. He's telling Vyasadeva. People have to know that that's the ultimate goal of life. Otherwise, they'll remain impure. They won't be able to reach the goal because they can't see the goal. So we said you have to tell them directly exactly what that is and describe in detail who Krishna is and what our relationship with him is. So this is what Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach. Exactly this. What is Krishna's form, name, pastimes, and in the highest of his manifestations as Krishna in the spirit in Goloka Vrindavan, where he has intimate, loving pastimes with his devotees. That is love that is unceremonious. It's not weighed down by the opulence and the formality of the relationships that are there in Vaikuntha. It's a spontaneous, loving relationship. Okay, let's go back. Loka gati dhaki acharya karuna hridoy, vichara karena lokera kaiche hita hoy. Seeing the activities of the world, the acharya felt compassion and began to ponder how he could act for the people's benefit. Loka gati means the course of the world. So the course of the world is set by the eternal time factor. It moves in a certain direction because of destiny, which is created by the karma of the living entities in this world, who take in a certain kind of sound vibration, and then they emanate that sound, and it makes an impression that, as Patanjali describes, gets filled in by material nature. So what we say and what we do matters. The human society now is misdirected because they don't know about Krishna, they don't know about transcendental sound vibration, and they don't know the difference between material topics and spiritual topics. If you bring up spirituality in the association of people who are untrained in this knowledge, when it comes to doing some spiritual act, they'll say, let's start an orphanage, or let's feed people. Nothing wrong with those activities. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says this idea of philanthropy often gets marred by not having complete idea about how to actually help people. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, and this is quoted in the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, that generally people will kill a lot of animals to feed people and then make it worse, as they don't know that the ultimate benefit of everyone is to receive transcendental knowledge. So the lokahita, the people of the world, they're going in a certain direction, and how can it be remedied? This is also brought up by Narada to Srila Vyasadeva. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishokam abhadyavatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitanyat shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. So he says that this tendency of the people of the world to be overcome by the three modes of material nature can only be remedied by the transcendental vibration of the Bhagavatam. Tadvag visargo, because it is a different creation, visarga. It's not from the material world, it's coming from the spiritual world. Janataga viplavo. And viplava means that it is the power that will reverse the tendency of the people of the world from being engaged in materialistic activities, which is the whole problem. The samohita jiva, the jiva who's forgotten completely about his relationship with Krishna, that's the only problem. And bhayam dvitiya binibesha tasyad ishad ape tasya viparya yo smriti. Viparya yo means he turned around, he's going in the wrong direction. And so the only thing to turn it around is this viplava, or revolution. It turn it the other way, 180 degrees. And that happens through the transcendental sound vibration of the Bhagavatam. Tadvag visarga janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavatyapi. Even if it's irregularly composed, doesn't matter, because namanyanantasya yashon kitanyat, it's full of the names of the Supreme and descriptions of the Supreme, and therefore it transcendentalizes those who hear it. And this is the solution that the greatest souls know, and the avatars like Advaita Acharya, they see the plight of people in the world and they want to do something about it, have compassion, and then they also have the medicine through which people can be reformed. Let's see the rest of that verse. Oops. Yeah, loka gati, the course of the world. Gati means it's going in a certain direction. And only a spiritual scientist knows why it's going in a certain direction. Dheki, seeing, Acharya, Advaitacharya, Karuna Hridoy, compassionate heart. So this is the beauty of the Vaishnavas, Paradhuka Duki. The Vaishnava feels sad because of the suffering of people in general. And this is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, designates the highest class yogi is one who has compassion for others, who suffers because of their suffering and can relate to what they're going through. And then vichara karena, he's thinking about what to do about it, is Advaita Acharya. Lokera, of the world, kaiche, how. So lokera kaiche, how, hita, will I give hoy some help to the people of the world. Seeing the activities of the world, the Acharya felt compassion and began to ponder how he could act for the people's benefit. So if you look at Nectar of Instruction, verse number 5, Prabhupada describes in this about maybe fourth from the last purport, that the highest class devotee is one who's constantly thinking about how to help other people go back home, back to Godhead. Let's see. Keep going. Shraddha Shabde. One should. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait. Here it is. In this Krishna conscious movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement, sit with us, take prasad, and hear about Krishna. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service, by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. Out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada gives this designation amongst the Sangha of Vaishnavas, one who's very strict and follows the process without stopping, comes to a higher platform. And how do we understand that higher platform? Well, the person is very strict and serious in following the regular principles and chanting Hare Krishna, prescribed number of rounds, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna conscious movement. This is in parallel with the thinking of Advaita Acharya and the way in which Krishna describes how the highest yogi is one who is empathizing with people in general. So the lowest devotee is described as a Kanishta Adhikari, and the Kanishta Adhikari doesn't know how to do good for others, and also doesn't know how to recognize advanced devotees. The neophyte devotee sees only the Ishvare Taradine, sees only the deity in the temple, but doesn't see the advancement of other devotees and respect them properly, and also doesn't know how to do good for others. So then the advanced devotee is one who knows the different categories, understands devotees and how to respect them properly, and also knows how to do good for others, can give mercy to other people. This is the Madhyamadikari. Ishvare tara dineshu, balisheshu dusatsucha, prema, maitri, kripopeksha, yakaroti samadhyamaha. So advanced devotional service is symptomized by this mood of Advaita Acharya. It's also mentioned in the Bhagavatam in the 8th canto by Shukadeva Goswami, observing Lord Shiva drinking the ocean of poison when he says, Tapyante luktapena sadhava prayasojana parama aradanantadi purushasya latmana. He says that the highest devotees are ones who feel for the people of the world and therefore take on some suffering on their own head for the sake of elevating those people. That's the best worship, he says, parama aradanam. You can't get any better worship than that for Krishna, who's within everyone's heart. That's the best kind of worship of Krishna. So this is the exalted nature of the path that we're on. It has to do with following the footsteps of the Panchatattva, taking shelter of the 5 members of the Panchatattva. And we see here the character of Advaita Acharya. He's showing by example what a Vaishnava is. A Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. It feels sorry for the people in general because of their suffering. And therefore is thinking, he's considering, let's look at the verse again. This is what's going through his mind. How can I help the people of the world? That's what this verse says. Vichar means vichar karena. He's considering. You see how that's parallel with what Prabhupada describes, that out of the Krishna consciousness movement emerge those who are more advanced and therefore should be become leaders, spiritual leaders. Vichar karena lokera, kaiche hita hoy. They're thinking, how can I help the people of the world? That's advanced devotional service. So the translation, seeing the activities of the world, the Acharya felt compassion and began to ponder, vichar karena, how he could act for the people's benefit. Kaiche hitohoi, purport. This sort of serious interest in the welfare of the public makes one a bona fide Acharya. An Acharya does not exploit his followers. Since the Acharya is a confidential servitor of the Lord, his heart is always full of compassion for humanity in its suffering. He knows that all suffering is due to the absence of devotional service to the Lord, and therefore he always tries to find ways to change people's activities, making them favorable for the attainment of devotion. That is the qualification of an Acharya. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu himself was powerful enough to do the work as a submissive servitor, he thought that without the personal appearance of the Lord, no one can improve the fallen condition of society. In the grim clutches of Maya, the first-class prisoners of this material world wrongly think themselves happy because they are rich, poor, powerful, resourceful, and so on. These foolish creatures do not know that they are nothing but play dolls in the hands of material nature, and that at any moment, material nature's pitiless intrigues can crush to dust all their plans for godless activities. Behold the poetry here. Such foolish prisoners cannot see that however they improve their position by artificial means, the calamities of repeated birth and death, disease and old age are always beyond the jurisdiction of their control. Foolish as they are, they neglect these major problems of life and busy themselves with false things that cannot help them solve their real problems. They know that they do not want to suffer death or the pangs of disease and old age, but under the influence of the illusory energy, they are grossly negligent and therefore do nothing to solve the problems. This is called Maya. People held in the grip of Maya are thrown into oblivion after death. And as a result of their karma, in the next life, they become dogs or gods, although most of them become dogs. They become gods in the next life. They must engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, they are sure to become dogs and hogs in terms of the laws of nature. The third-class prisoners, being less materially opulent than the first-class prisoners, endeavor to imitate them, for they also have no information of the real nature of their imprisonment. Thus, they also are misled by the illusory material nature. The function of the Acharya, however, is to change the activities of both the first-class and third-class prisoners for their real benefit. This endeavor makes him a very dear devotee of the Lord, who says clearly in the Bhagavad Gita that no one in human society is dearer to him than a devotee who constantly engages in his service by finding ways to preach the message of Godhead for the real benefit of the world. The so-called acharyas of the age of Kali are more concerned with exploiting the resources of their followers than mitigating their miseries. But Sri Advaita Prabhu, as an ideal acharya, was concerned with improving the condition of the world situation. There we have before us a masterpiece, a purport that you can read again and again. You can put it on your wall. And the poetry of Prabhupada's words and the way he expresses these concepts is unparalleled. It's the confluence of his association with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, with all of the Vedic literatures, and his profound expression of realization because of his relationship with Krishna and Lord Caitanya that comes out in these purports in such an attractive way, but informative as well. So now let's take some reflections or questions.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. This is Dhanvari, please.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavari.
Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances to you, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for everything. Whole package is so nice. I get really happy. I want to share these two slokas that Guru Maharaj, you started with Baraha Pidam Natavarvapo Karnayo Karnikaram, that slok, and then the other one from Gopi Geet, Tava Kathamrutam Tapta Jivanam. That slok, both sloks are my favorite. Since childhood, my father taught me, and then I read that Lord Chaitanya embraced Prataprudra king when he was saying this Tava Kathamrutam. That is Lord Chaitanya's favorite, and I really like to recite every day. And thank you so much. I just wanted to share.
You have a blessed birth in this world, that those are your remembrances, that you remember and have favorite shlokas from the Bhagavatam. Speaks of your momentum coming into this world, and also puts you way high in the chart for having complete success in this lifetime. So it's that we get favorite verses in the Bhagavatam and they're very meaningful to us is our lifeline to the spiritual world. So we want everybody to have that opportunity to taste that, even if they weren't born in a family where they got that samskar, which is extremely special. We want everyone, no matter where they take up in life. And I want to mention at this point, dedicating this class today to His Grace Prema Niketan Prabhu, such a dear devotee to so many people. He was one of my older disciples. He passed away yesterday, or the day before yesterday, India time. He had been battling some illness for some time. And I got to know him very, very well, staying at his home on my way to and from Vrindavan and in Delhi. And also he traveled so much back and forth from Vrindavan, from Delhi. And whenever I came there, I always rode with him. He drove me everywhere. And we got a chance to talk and talk and talk. And he was so appreciative of the fact that he came in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement. And after a lifetime of a successful material life, and then realizing the futility of it, and then grabbing on wholeheartedly to everything he could possibly get in the later years of his life, it made me appreciate this mood of eagerness And the sooner that we can develop that, even if you're young as a kid, feel free to grab this really hard and hold on to it throughout this lifetime. There's nothing else to be had that's of value. And we have very little time. We really don't know how much time we have. Anyway, I dedicate all the kirtan and everything to His Grace Premandi Caitanya Prabhu, and pray that his family may find solace in realizing the greatness of this soul who lived in their midst and practiced Krishna consciousness. Om Tat Sat. Thanks for reminding me of all that.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, let's see what else. Reflections or questions?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Devavrata.
I wanted to share a reflection from distributing books the other day in the Walmart parking lots.
Yes, please.
I met this man who I came up to him, I showed him the books, and he wasn't so interested. And then about 5 minutes later, he pulled up in his truck and he tried giving me a book called How Money Works. And he was saying, you know, you're very talented. You're obviously a hard worker. You know, you could work for me. You can read this book and you can come work for me. And I didn't say it to him, but I was thinking, I was like, I know how money works. It comes and goes. But what I'm doing, distributing books, this is the best investment I could make with my life, because neha bikramanashtosti patatvayo navidyate, so alpamapasya dharmasya trayate mahadhobayat. And whatever I invest in this, it's not going to go away. It's with me forever. And so I was just thinking about, you know, all these purports. They're kind of referencing how the best thing that we can do with our time is dedicate all energy into being Krishna conscious and make as much advancement as we can with this short period of time that we have.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Devavrata. Prabhu, and this is one of the reasons that book distribution is such a powerful service, is because when we go out and mix it up with all kinds of people who are affected by various modes of nature, it tends to solidify what we're reading in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. And just as Devavrata Prabhu, because he's deeply studying and the books and also chanting Hare Krishna and living a strict life of practice, then when he hears and sees these things, then it becomes an edifying factor that he'll hear and he'll say, oh, I recognize that mode of nature. And he's able to juxtapose that with what the Bhagavatam says. And this becomes very powerful. Anyadevahur sambhavat, anyadahura sambhavat. Those who can see the difference between knowledge or worship of Krishna and the difference between knowledge of or worshiping Krishna and worshiping that which is not supreme. Then somebody can actually have determination and become successful. Let's see what else.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Danvat Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Prema Sarovara Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. Question, continuing on that question from Devavrata Prabhu. We sometimes meet non-devotees who might say, why do I care? Let me enjoy this life. So what would be an ideal response which kind of could convey what we have to say?
Well, we could craft the response, but my immediate thought is, when will that enjoyment begin? The futility of material life is expressed throughout the Bhagavatam. We see Puranjana, who is looking everywhere within the universe to find a suitable place for him to enjoy. And he finally arrived in Bharatvarsha, and there he saw a beautiful park, and it appeared to be a place where he could enjoy. The Bhagavatam goes into much detail about birds and the flora and the fauna and the sound vibration, and then he sees a beautiful young woman. So this is the epitome of enjoyment in the material world. This is where the plot always thickens in every play, every movie. Boy meets girl, and okay, now this is the real. This is where the real enjoyment's going to start. So we learn from Puranjana he meets the beautiful woman and he becomes attractive. So he starts chatting with her and flattering her. And then she's flattered, and they have this implicit agreement that, yes, let's enjoy together. And he asks her, where do you come from? And where are you going? She said, I have no idea. I just know now. And this is the material intelligence. She represents material intelligence, that I only know now. I only know that I'm here now. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and let's go get a Slurpee. And there's no consideration of consequences whatsoever in this so-called enjoyment. So when they get together, the scenario plays out in such a way that Puranjana is living with his wife, and then he leaves for a hunting trip and goes kills animals. He transgresses dharma by leaving his wife and spending time with other women. And then he comes back. His wife, who represents dharma, is in a state of depression and angry at him. And then he makes up. And then they try to make up for lost time being together. And wherever his wife goes, he goes. Whatever she thinks, he thinks. Whatever she eats, he eats. And this is, it's showing, the Bhagavatam is showing the pattern of material life, that the male and female come together, there's a kind of bonding, and there's this expectation that sometime the happiness is going to happen. But what happens is, while they're life is what happens. I think John Lennon wrote this in a song. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. Is that correct? Anybody know John Lennon songs? No. Srimadhava Mahotsava knows George Harrison. He met him in Vrindavan.
That is a John Lennon song.
Thank you very much, Subhadra. I deeply appreciate it. We need an archivist from the 70s here to help us sometimes. So there's this expectation they're going to be happy, but what the Bhagavatam reveals to us, as they're trying to enjoy together, then there's this attack that takes place, and it's insidious because the time factor comes, and they don't realize that, oh, we've gotten old. And then Puranjana, who's a metaphor for this, the city of the body, he's living within, it gets attacked by old age. And then the fever comes, the fever of death takes away his life. And at the time of death, he is naturally absorbed in what he was doing throughout his lifetime, which was trying to enjoy with his wife. And then he thinks of his wife at the time of death, and he takes birth in his next life in a different body, in the opposite. Now he becomes a woman in his next life. And life goes on with the pursuit for happiness, but he never actually touches it. Actually, the kind of happiness we get is a representation of happiness. It's an image that we're looking at in the mind. We never actually touch the world. We're only looking at a reflection of it or a photograph of it on the chitta, or the mind. The mind is a subtle substance that is within our body. Our body is a microcosm of the whole universe. And that subtle substance there records the imagery that comes from the outside world. So we as the Purusha within the body, the person who's trying to enjoy in that city of 9 gates, we're looking at that imagery on the chitta that's imprinted there. And as if we're watching a movie, we don't actually interact with the world. We only interact with the imagery on the screen. This isn't everything you should say to that person. I'm just trying to analyze it. But the fact is that, when does the enjoyment start? And the Bhagavatam can give us the high perspective that actually we never touch happiness in this material world. Or if we do, as the Vaishnava poets say, that if you're in the desert, your feet are being scorched, you're thirsty, you need water, you're going to die, and someone says, yes, I'll give you water. And then Jayadev says, okay, here's 1 drop. Bring an eyedropper. You need a lot of water to satisfy your thirst, to stop your feet from burning. But then someone says, okay, I give you water. You can't say it's not water. but it's one drop. It's not enough. So the same thing with the material world. You never quite get the happiness you're looking for. And if it does come, it's insufficient. It doesn't satisfy what we actually want. So for people like that, actually, philosophically, we may present many points, but it's often best to give them some kind of an experience. For instance, distributing prasadam can be very effective, as prasadam has transcendental qualities, all the transcendental qualities of Krishna. And if you just give them prasadam that they like and keep giving it to them, then their mindset gets purified, and they can take an interest in devotional service. That's sort of a fix-all. Prasadam fixes everything. Let's see what else there is.
Dandat
Yes.
Pranam, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Vaikunthanayaka Prabhu. Good to see you.
Same here, Maharaj. Actually, I was intrigued by that verse 97, where actually Advaita Acharya says that everyone's engaged in material world, whether sinfully or virtuously, right? It is as if the two are the same things. He is not actually giving a higher importance to the so-called virtue or so-called goodness in this world. Actually, I was reminded that Srila Prabhupada, I think, very graphically described this as the dry end of the stool or the wet end, like that, right?
Yeah.
And we have these spiritual organization also here in India, which says do good, be good, and they think that this is all there is to to life. And what to speak of the spiritual organization? I was reading this 11th canto where actually Krishna is instructing Uddhava, and there I think he refutes the theory of Jaimini. I think it's one of the 6 darshans or the philosophies, the Mimamsas, where they feel that everything is I mean, all that you need to do is engage in good fruitive material karmic activities, and how Krishna is refuting that. So it was very interesting that actually how Advaita Acharya is in the same lines he's talking. But while that is really thought provoking, I do have that question that what exactly prompts one to take up devotional service if it's not his pious activities? Because everybody is distributing books, everybody, but only few take it, right? Everybody, we are giving prasadam, but only few benefit from it. So if it is not virtuous activities, if it is not pious activities, what prompts a person to take his first step towards devotional service? Is it Agyata Sukriti or what? Could you please elaborate on that?
Sure. There's a way in which, in traveling throughout the material world, Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, the living entity, he's wandering from one place to another, means there's no satisfaction, there's no resting place. But when one comes in contact with a devotee who's speaking about Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, distributing Krishna consciousness, whether that person who's wandering understands what just happened, by the impression that he or she gets by hearing from that person, coming in contact, rendering some service, that there's a seed, a subtle seed is planted. Everything grows in this material world from subtle to gross. Every gross manifestation we see around us is an evolute from something subtle. In fact, the whole universe is like that. And also the growth of devotional service is described by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu as an evolution that starts by the planting of a seed or a bij. And that bij comes from those who are planters, who distribute the sound vibration. That's why this distribution is so important. The Madhyama Adhikaris who understand the purpose of the Lord go out and give the transcendental vibration to as many people as possible and engage them. That's why Prabhupada engaged his disciples early on. For instance, in India, in Maidan Cross Road, Shyam Sundar put together a festival where millions of people could come. Of course, it was in Bharatvarsha. They're all so pious there. But they come and they hear Hare Krishna. and they get benefit. And Prabhupada used to say from these exhibitions that we make, whether big, small, medium, it doesn't matter. You know, if you go and you broadcast, then people come in contact with it. Of course, you know, there's this ongoing debate about the power of agyata sukriti. We shouldn't just be satisfied that, okay, I sprayed it on people, therefore they're going to get benefit. I mean, the Shastra is clear. The fact is that when somebody hears the holy name from a devotee, when they chant it, they get benefit. But we also have to help them by developing an infrastructure, and Prabhupada started this. That's why he made temples all over the world, so that people could come and sit and see the deities here and so forth. So the short answer is that through this contact with devotees, one way or another, in some lifetime, one gets this impression of bhakti within one's mind and heart. Yadabaso pyudyan kabalita bhavadvanto vibabo drishan tatvandanam api dishati bhakti pranayanim. Rupa Goswami says the holy name is so powerful that when somebody who's andhanam, they're blind, they don't know anything about tattva, they don't know anything about Krishna or bhakti, but when they hear the holy name from the devotees, then it can awaken that sense of bhakti in them. That's the power of it. And so there's some kind of seed planted by association with a devotee somewhere. And if one can do some service, then Shraddha awakens. And Prabhupada says that every living being has a bank account in his or her heart. And every time that we get some connection with devotees, devotional service, then we put a deposit in that bank account. Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi, Brahma Samhita. Krishna is telling Brahma that gradually, Yadrishi Shraddha, that Shraddha becomes stronger and thicker. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Adao Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangata Bhajana Kriya. From Agyata Sukriti comes Shraddha, or one has some appreciation for devotional service. As you said, in distributing, you find rare people, they're very interested. And it's not that the other people don't get benefit. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told his Madbasis, you should go out every day and knock at least 3 doors. He said, even if they don't listen to you, they get the benefit. They see a devotee and they think, oh, some holy person came to my door. Even if they slam the door in your face, then they still think, these Hare Krishnas should go away. Prabhupada emphasized this. He said, Krishna's name is so powerful, the devotees who are distributing it are so noteworthy, that he said, even if people come through the airport and they see you, at that time we dominated the world through the airports, and they see you, and then Prabhupada said, if they think, oh, there's that rascal Hare Krishna man, he should go away. He said, they thought Hare Krishna. And so the name has some power and influence. Of course, we'd like to organize so that it has the most positive influence. So when they see us, they think that was the most beautiful presentation I've ever seen. I want to go back to it. That was the nicest prasadam I ever tasted. These are the nicest people I ever met. Because then it goes more deeply within the hearts of people. And so we shouldn't develop a militant attitude, in my opinion, that, okay, we're spraying it on people, so it doesn't matter what else we do, because it's like a virus. It just hits you and then you're done. Lord Chaitanya was very thoughtful about how he presented, specifically so that he could capture the minds and hearts of people. And why is Vyasadeva so concerned in talking to his guru? He wants to present it in such a way that they can understand it completely and it'll have the highest benefit. So that's the kind of adjustment that goes on within the minds and hearts of devotees. And Prabhupada used to say, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashyad yaptati siddhayas. So it's rare that people are interested in spiritual life. So you can take it like that Krishna said it. It's rare people take it. So when you're out preaching and you find only a few people who are really interested, that's very much in line with the actuary tables that Krishna has presented in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see what else. Okay, Shreya has a question here. She says, differentiated between Shaktivesh avatar Buddha and said there was a separate Buddha that came to the null conclusion of nirvana. Can you please reconcile the existence of these Buddhas, which, as per my understanding, seem to be two different entities? Yeah, they seem historically to be two different entities. There's the avatar, which is mentioned in our Das Avatar Stotra, and there's also the story of Buddha. Buddha is more of a title, a name of somebody, not a specific avatar, except in the case of where it says it in the Shastras. And so there's these stories of Siddhartha Buddha and coming out of the palace, seeing the suffering of people, and then going back to meditate and rise above samsara. But with no guru, he came to a null conclusion. Rikta Matayo, he didn't have the connection to the parampara. Okay, let's see a reflection from Madhava Govinda Prabhu, who said, I was remembering the pastime of Haridas Thakur when Lord Chaitanya asked him, how can these yavanas be delivered? And Haridas Thakur replies that the Lord does not, the Lord do not take anxiety. Actually, that section, anyway, he's saying, Srila Prabhupada mentions these words of Haridas Thakur are just befitting a devotee who has dedicated his life and soul to the service of the Lord. When the Lord is unhappy because of the condition of the fallen souls, the devotee consoles him, saying, my dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. This is service. Everyone should adopt the cause of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to try to relieve him from the anxiety he feels. This is actually service to the Lord. Yeah, that's a very important quotation, and the devotee who notices that this is the innermost desire of the Lord to help the conditioned souls, and then goes about that work, becomes very quickly recognized. Okay, other points? Vamshuli said, please accept my obeisances. The daily activities of devotional service are going on outwardly, but I'm not putting my heart enough into it. How to get to the point where I want to chant and not just have to? Well, think about it when you sit to chant and remember how helpless you are. This is the recommendation of Queen Kunti when she says, Janmai Shvarya Shruta Shribir Eda Manabada Puman Naivar Yavidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gochara. Become a Kinchana. Remember, take some time to meditate on this fact that you don't really have anything. It's all borrowed plumes, as Prabhupada writes. And it will be helpless at sometimes. Start from that position when you chant. And Prabhupada said, when you're in that helpless condition, feel helpless, you are helpless, so feel it. Get in touch with that reality. And then chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And it will conflagrate. The chanting will cause a fire to burn. If you chant with that mood of being akinchana, I don't have anything. I didn't get anything yet. I'm the one who was left out, and it's my own fault. So now I'm begging. I'm begging and begging. Please give me one drop. Just let me taste it one time. Ek bar nam rashi matore, said Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Try to be in this mood that, my Lord, I didn't get anything. I'm the one who got left out. So now I'm begging, if you just give me one little drop, ek bar, one time, ek bar nam rashe matore, give me that one drop where I'll feel it, where I'll be changed by this. And that can happen in one japa session. Plan for it, make your day rotate around that, and then sit down and lean into your chanting so you break something. Really chant from your heart. Don't just get it done. And even if you can't do that for 16 rounds, because you don't practice, anything you practice for, you can develop. And so start with what you can do. If you can do half a round in that mood or 5 mantras, do it like that and keep practicing. Like we did this morning, we have these japa sessions specifically so we can focus and remember this is a discipline that is necessary for us to advance. Okay. Let's see.
Much.
Yes.
I just wanted to share a reflection. I was listening to one of your classes from about 2 years ago, I think. No, a few years ago, in 2014. And you were talking about, the name of the class is Beware of Maya, and you were talking about how our standing in Krishna consciousness is a gift. And so when you were just speaking on this point of I don't have anything, I was just thinking that anything that we have is just a gift. Just to be grateful for that is just such an amazing, amazing accomplishment.
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing up that point. And it's helpful, of course, in any discipline, but especially in Krishna consciousness, to start to be a beginner's mind. Don't feel entitled. That somehow or other, mercifully, somebody dragged me in and is allowing me to stay here and be a part of the devotees. And keep that. Start over every day and say, I'm the beginner here. I'm starting over. I don't know anything. I'm totally dependent. And that kind of mindset's really important. Srinad api sunichena toror api sushnuna amanida manadina kirtaniya sadahari. That was Lord Chaitanya's instruction. He said, be very, very humble and don't think I'm something big. I'm just a little, I'm here. I'm a mercy case. How did you get here? I'm just a mercy case. Somebody let me in the back door because I was scratching on it. And, you know, I don't really deserve to be here, but somehow or they let me in. And I'm just counting every minute as a blessing that I can stay here with the devotees. If we have that mood, then we can chant. And if we lose that mood and it gets covered over with this idea, Janma Aishvarya Shruta Shri Bir, that can happen in devotional service. I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a big something. Krishna says, Nirmana Moha Jita Sangha Dosha. Nirman means don't be the man. Like you walk in, I'm the man. Kirtan, you know, I'm chanting kirtan, but my mantra really in my mind is look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And, you know, this is an idea that is coming out of my mind while I'm chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So the vibration is different from somebody who's helpless and calling out that Krishna, you know, I need you. Prabhupada's kirtans were powerful. He chanted simple tunes. He only had 3 tunes altogether. And they're very simple, but because of the power of you know, what was coming out of Prabhupada's heart, people were moved by it. And the whole movement started around it. So it's the quality of the vibration that we make dependent on the quality of our consciousness. And so Nirman, be Nirman.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
Guru Maharaj, I was listening to one lecture that you gave previously in 2015, titled The Psychology of Frustration. And I could relate it pretty much with what we were discussing here. You just talked about the futility of material life. And that lecture you were talking how that you made a reference from Prahlad Maharaj's teachings that anything that we endeavor for in this material world, we get the opposite result. And on the other hand, whatever we, I mean, even the entry level result that we get by getting in touch with the spiritual vibration is
Yes, and in Prahlad's teachings, he says this, that everybody inevitably gets the opposite result. This is what Arjuna says, Viparitani Keshava. He's saying in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, I'm here in the battlefield. This doesn't look good. I'm going to get the opposite of what I wanted out of life. And Prabhupada comments, Viparitani. Viparitani means, okay, I'm getting the opposite. So on the other hand, with devotional service, Krishna is so kind that if we approach him with all our complexities in life, Satyam drishyati artitam artito nrinam, naivartato yat punar artito yata, swayam vidate bhajatam anichatam icha pitanam, icha pitanam bhajatam anichatam. So Satyam dishyati artito nirnam. Artitam artito nirnam. Naivardato yat punar artita yata. Punar artito yata. So arta, the person who takes to Krishna consciousness, but then keeps asking Krishna for, I want this, I want that. I may come to Krishna consciousness, but I still have material desires, in other words. And but what about this? What about that? I need this in order to be a real devotee. If you first give me this, then I'll think about surrendering Krishna. So anyway, Krishna thinks this person's a fool. I'm giving the best thing, but this person's thinking, give me something else. So Krishna says, this person may be a fool, but I'm not a fool. I have a lot of experience. And so he gives the material desires to the person, but he does it in such a way that they don't want it anymore. He covers over that desire with a desire instead for Krishna's lotus feet. Icha pidanam nija. Nija pada means I give him my personal association, pallavam, my beautiful lotus feet. So if we approach Krishna, even if we're in a confused state of mind, but we keep trying, then Krishna will help to sort things out so that we will eventually come to this point of pure devotional service. And also, as Prabhupada indicates in the verse, Sarvadharman Parityaja, we can preemptively do that at any time. In other words, we can just decide, I've had enough of the material world. I'm just going to go ahead and surrender to Krishna in every way that I possibly can at every moment. And let's just be done with the whole thing. And Krishna says to such a person, Ma shuchaha, don't worry, I'll back you up on this 100%. And that's really exciting life. The rest of it is kind of a, the evolution is there, but it's what a drag to be left behind. And especially because we have a finite amount of time in this lifetime. Wouldn't it be glorious to be able to beat the system and actually make it in one life? Yeah, make it in one life, like surprise all the critics and, just surprise yourself, surprise your own mind, that says, you're useless, you can't do this. And just very quietly, in a very determined way, turn everything around and say, I don't care what anybody says, including my own mind. I'm going to take up Krishna's offer and I'm going to surrender. Why not do that? Nothing wrong with that plan, right? Shreya, what do you think there in North Carolina? Is it a good plan?
Yes, it's the best plan out there.
Thank you very much. We needed a verbal yes to confirm. So that can be done, and that's a devotee's praying for that. Just let me do that plan. And ananyas chintayantamam yejana paripasade. I heard Prabhupada speaking just recently, and he was saying, I didn't come with anything to this country, and now I look at all the facility I have. He said, I've been around the world 14 times, and I'm a penniless beggar, monk. I don't have anything. I've been around the world 14 times. Even billionaires can't do that because they're locked into doing their work. They have the karma bandha phanta. They still have, you get $1 billion and you still, I got to take care of my company. And you're 70, 80, 90, 100 years old, and then you drop dead, and then you're born, you got to work again. So ananyas chintayantamam yejana paripasade. I'm not against work, but it's the mood of surrender. It has to be, Krishna, I want everything for you, everything dedicated. And if you just fix your mind upon me, Krishna says, then yogakshema vahamyaham, you'll see I'm right there. I'll take care of you. And that's the meaningful part of life.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hey, Haribol, Bhakti Alex. I was just in a meeting with the Bhakti Center a couple of days ago, and they were showing me pictures.
Okay.
Is it called the Soul Spot?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, your inspiration. We're trying to.
Really beautiful. They're doing this table with signs and Soul Spot, and so many people coming and taking Krishna consciousness there in New York. Please go ahead, Bhakti Alex, and thank you for the service you're doing.
Yeah, it's all your grace, Guru Maharaj, truly. I was really appreciating the point you were making about not trying to be the man and like being in the mood of being like the new guy every day. And it reminded me of one of my favorite Bhagavatam stories, which is Jud Bharat, and how he not only wasn't trying to present himself as very learned, which he was, but he actually presented himself as being retarded almost, because he really just didn't want to get into it, the whole like name and fame thing. And so I was really appreciating that point. But also in that regard, I was curious in that sometimes we have devotees come to us who may be feeling a lack of inspiration and not so enthusiastic, and they're kind of struggling in their Krishna consciousness. And then the natural kind of reaction that I think a lot of your disciples especially feel is to say, well, just go do books, go out your door and try and give a book to somebody, because you really then can tap into that stream of inspiration and enthusiasm that comes from like following the order of Lord Chaitanya. But at the same time, we don't want to come off like, we're above them and we're instructing them, because obviously, I'm not for sure, but, just, how to maybe present the idea of like going out on book distribution to somebody without making it feel like, you're the man, and like you're telling them, what to do, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Sure. Well, a couple thoughts. One is in the Gita, Krishna says that you shouldn't discourage people, but you should encourage them to work whatever they're doing in the spirit of devotion. So the mood is Krishna is presenting is be gentle with the position people are in now, and then just encourage them to do what they can with what they have. And as far as going on book distribution, the idea of we're in this together and we're just going out to see what will happen, because we're doing the right thing, and it's very exciting to go out into the great unknown known as the public. And it's fun and easy. Make it a festive environment and invite people to come along. Ramananda Sakraprabhu, the first time I remember him at the temple, he walked in and we were on our way out to go set up book tables. And he had just come. We greeted him. He was new at the temple. And I said, well, we're all just going out right now on Sankirtan. He said, what's that? I said, you want to come? And he said, what is it? And he said, well, we just set up some tables and we're distributing books. And he said, sure, I'll come along. And he ended up distributing a book or more that day as a complete beginner. Of course, he's obviously an advanced soul who walked in. But, as far as the orientation to our community and ISKCON distribution of books and things, he was new at that time, but he kind of got swept along. So it's always helpful to create a festival environment. I notice that whenever I do Sankirtan seminars in any given community, a lot more people generally will come for the philosophical part, presenting the PowerPoint. But then when it gets time to actually walk out the door together, things come up. Like, my mom needs a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll be right back in a few days after this thing is over, and so forth. So, I notice that the more I lower the bar and I say, actually, we're not going out to distribute books. We're just seeing if we can actually walk out the door. That's the only part you have to do. Go out and touch the pavement. That's become a ritual. That we go out to your spot, just try to make it, you really don't have to do any books. And we don't want you to do any, actually. No need to perform, and don't even try it, because, that's not what we're doing. We're just going out to see what it feels like to conquer the mind and walk out the door, then together touch the pavement. And if it happens after that you want to try something, then fine. So oftentimes framing it for people in that way, because I notice that devotees get it in their mind that, oh, I have to perform. And then they play a scenario in their mind that when I try to perform and I don't know what I'm doing, I'll be rejected. And then I'll look like a fool and people won't think, I think you're not very advanced. And there's all these false expectations they put upon themselves. So in order to help people overcome that, you have to anticipate those and take them away and give them, confidence that you're successful already just because you showed up. And if you walk out the door with us, you're going to feel something that's really exciting, but we don't want you to do anything today. Just watch, hang out. And then I find that the people who are kind of self-starters, they'll break that rule and they'll start running around doing it themselves anyway. And the other people who are shy, they feel full protection to be able to stay back and just watch and do behind the scenes services to help others. And then they get caught up in the mood of it. And that can help a lot. Well, as usual, we've run over time, but it's been a real pleasure, hasn't it, going into the Sri Caitanya caritamrta? And it just, did anybody find where those other two verses were? I think there were two more about how each, didn't we add some, Shraddha, verses about Shri Vishnu Parikshadabhavad. There's a long verse that can be sung in that tune about how each devotee attained perfection by a particular kind of devotional service. I've seen them. They're somewhere in a PowerPoint already.
Is it? Okay, because I don't remember adding it. Maybe.
Anyone?
Yeah, I'll check with Shamalangi Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, I think we had done it, but today maybe we are presenting the other one. So yeah, we'll check it. Yes.
Where are they, Shamalangi?
I will look there in the Google Drive. I'll check with Shraddha Mataji and we'll find out, Raj.
Okay. We're suffering due to lost verses. They've disappeared somewhere. Okay, so now let us have our Guru Puja program, and then if we find the verses, we'll sing them. Hare Krishna.
I think CC Madhya 22-136, one of the words.
22-136. Okay, thank you. Who said that?
It's Mukharavinda.
Hey, Mukharavinda, good work. That's a nice service that you do, always finding the verses right away. It really is a nice service. Let's look at that real quick. Let's see if we can sing it. We'll see you on the other side. We're traveling to Jamulus land. We'll be right back with you.
Madhya 22-136.
Hare Krishna. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshirabhava Vaisesika Kirtane Prahlada Smarane Rarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Vritu Pujane Abhurastvabhivandane Kapipatir Dase Dasa Kirjuna Sarva Swadmani Vedane Balirabu Krishna Krishna. One more time from the top. Shri Krishna Shravane Parikshirabhava Vaisesika Kirtane Prahlada Smarane Tarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pitur Pujane Akrurastvadi Vandane Kapipati Dase Dasayirjuna Sarvasvat Maharaj Parikshit attained the highest perfection, shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, simply by hearing about Lord Vishnu. Shukdev Goswami attained perfection simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj attained perfection by remembering the Lord. The goddess of fortune attained perfection by massaging the transcendental legs of Mahavishnu. Maharaj Prithu attained perfection by worshipping the deity, and Akura attained perfection by offering prayers unto the Lord. Bajrangaji, Hanuman, attained perfection by rendering service to Lord Ramachandra, and Arjuna attained perfection simply by being Krishna's friend. Bali Maharaj attained perfection by dedicating everything to the lotus feet of Krishna. Right. Can everyone please unmute and say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama. Hare Krishna.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman. Hey, Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman. Natari Armarman.